They're about to lock you in. You better hurry up. She's gonna follow. We're gonna use that, yeah? Miss Mary Casillas, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and enlighten us on all things Chula Vista and how it played a role in your life.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. But these days, now that I'm retired, I'm not that busy. I was born in Chula Vista in 1948, and I think the population was even less than 10,000 people at that time, if you can imagine. And so it was a small agricultural town. The only thing it had going for it was roar. And so both my mom and dad participated in World War II because my dad was in the Army Air Corps and he was an airplane mechanic. And then my mom, after she graduated from high school, she went directly to work at Roar Manufacturing, and she was a spot welder during the war. That was a legacy of my family. So they were proud veterans, and when they all came back from the war, they all worked to make this community better. I saw how they were. I saw that it wasn't just about your own little tight family and doing things just for your family. It was about making your whole community better. My grandfather and my grandmother came here first. They were one of the first pioneers from Yahualica. And as more community members came and settled really close by here on Dorothy and Anita, those streets, is that they helped other families find their way, get their footing in the United States so that they could prosper too. So I have that kind of legacy in my family. And after the war, they were either really active in their churches, Knights of Columbus with the big feathers. I had an uncle my Uncle A.Y. was the first sitting Latino elected to the Chula Vista Elementary School District.
Oh, wow.
In 1964.
These are the things that led you to ultimately become and accomplish and the accolades that you reached.
Yeah, so first of all, a good family foundation, right? Filled with a lot of love, a lot of discipline too. We used to call my dad Old Yeller.
Yes, Old Yeller.
Yeah, because there were three of us girls, and, we kind of used to gang up on him, scheme behind the mom and dad's back, cover each other.
Chula Vista has been around for a long time. You are one of the pillars of this community since day one, since your family got here in 1919. What does Chula Vista mean to you?
It means everything to me. From the opportunities that it gave me as a little kid to be romping around in fields and growing up healthy and being able to experience the outdoors, living so close to the bay. I grew up right there on Colorado Avenue, and the railroad tracks were right on Industrial. So, every time the train would roll by, our house would shake. Because my dad built that house after World War II. There were a bunch of open lots, and people would buy the lots individually. And the reason my dad chose the neighborhood, which was Harborside.
Harborside,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, Harborside.
Absolutely.
It's a small neighborhood.
Extremely.
It's in between Naples and Moss and Industrial and Broadway, and that is Harborside. Is that, it was one of the more affordable places in Chula Vista, and, one of the places where Mexican-American families could actually feel welcome outside of Otay.
In your lifetime, you have seen Chula Vista go through some changes.
Oh, yeah.
You have been there at the helm with some of these changes.
Yeah, so from an agricultural community until, we started master planning the Otay Ranch, when it was annexed into the City of Chula Vista, which really increased our boundaries. I was really fortunate to serve on the Planning Commission. So if you can imagine back then in the early 90s, I was looking at all these documents and plans to actually develop the Otay Ranch in Eastlake, to see that, the neighborhoods that used to be, on paper with names on them are now actually places where people can live and thrive. It really feels good, really does. I got married very young, and, your chances for success when you're so young and you don't know yourself or your partner doesn't know themselves, it's pretty dismal, right? I ended up getting a divorce, and quite frankly, it was devastating for me. And I couldn't get out of bed for a couple of months. I mean, I was so depressed and blah, 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 feeling sorry for myself. And then I decided, you know what? I can't do this. I got 2 girls I have to raise. How am I going to do this? And so, I pulled myself together with the help of my family again, right? My mom and dad were a great support. And I made the decision that I had to go to college. I had to get an education. I had to be able to provide for my kids other than the kind of jobs I had had up to that point, which were part-time retail sales and working in a bank part-time, right? So I went back to school and I tackled it with all my earnest because I felt like I was an old lady at 37 being a freshman. But during that time at the university, I met this wonderful group of women, which is MANA, and that was in 1988. The mission of the organization was to improve the lives of Latinas and their families in education, in business, and politics, and health. And those women mentored me and encouraged me through school. And then they saw something in me that I didn't. They said, we think that you're a leader. We think that you have a good future. And so they said, here's these boards in Chula Vista. We'd like you to apply for one. They were giving me the blueprint. And so I went and I applied, and I was really surprised. I was appointed to the Civil Service Commission, and that's just what started it. I got to learn how the city worked that way internally. And then there was an opening on the Planning Commission, and my uncle encouraged me to apply. And so I did, and I got on it. And then that led me to get knowledgeable about land use and about what was going to come in the future in Chula Vista. And so then I decided, well, I think I'm prepared. I think that I've learned enough that I can run for city council. And when I ran, I wasn't endorsed by any one of the council members except Steve Padilla. And there were 6 people in the primary, and I was really surprised because I came out number 2 in the primary against this guy. And so the second time around, I worked even harder. Each time the returns came coming out, I gained and I gained and I gained, and I ultimately beat him by 10 points.
Out of you.
It was like so awesome. I won, and I did a really good job because I've always been community oriented. So I was out in Chula Vista all that time. We didn't have districts then, so it was all of Chula Vista.
All Chula Vista. You became mayor of Chula Vista when?
Oh, that was 2014.
2014.
When I left the council after 8 years, my first 2 terms from 96 to 2004, I thought I was done with politics. I really did. I thought it was just a great honor to be a city council person, right? And I didn't think about running for mayor, but then one day, this guy comes down from Sacramento, and he wants me to run for assembly. And I said, well, how did you hear from me? How do you know about me? And they said, well, we've heard good things about you, blah, blah, this and that. And we'd like you to consider running for the assembly. I had never thought of running for California State Assembly. So I ran and I won. And, it was a great experience for me. I learned so much. And I think that the political life up there, having to really be tough, really prepared me to be mayor. And so after I left there, then I decided, yes, I'm going to be mayor. I want to run because not only do I feel like I'm the most prepared, okay, not qualified, but prepared to run, but I also felt that I really had the best interest of the city in mind because, my grandparents came here. My dad and mom were born here. I was born here. All my cousins were born here. My children, and then now my grandchildren.
You are Chula Vista.
Yeah.
You were able to bring new business to 3rd Avenue, where once upon a time, breweries were a distant cry. People wanted them, but there was no way of ever making it happen.
So there were a lot of things that had to go into it. First of all, you had to create a street scene. You really had to make Chula Vista better on 3rd Avenue. So during my time, we got a lot of funding for improvements to 3rd Avenue. So all the median landscapes, the widening of the sidewalks, we used to have real narrow sidewalks.
I remember.
And so all of that creates more ease for people to get around, and it creates a more friendly atmosphere. And some people complain about not being able to race down 3rd Avenue, but when you're racing down 3rd Avenue, you really can't see the businesses. when you're taking it slow, you can
Gotta slow down.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
There's a little something for everybody on 3rd
Yeah.
Avenue. Miss Mary, what is your legacy?
Oh gosh, my legacy?
What are you gonna look back on and be like, oh,
I know, there's so much. So I'm going to look back and no, I'm not going to cut the ribbon on the university. No, I'm not going to cut the ribbon on the Bayfront. But I certainly know that I had a big hand in making it happen. Really making it happen. No, I'm not going to get to cut those ribbons, but boy, I know who brought the deal to the table. Okay? I know who brought the deal to the table. And so that makes me proud. And just that Chula Vista has become this great environmental good place to live. And I know we have a lot of naysayers and a lot of detractors. We have people that are never going to be happy no matter how good things are, right? I think it's a pretty damn good city. And I don't think that I'm being chauvinistic about it. I think it's a great place to live.